Welcome to Easily Entertained. My name is Bryson Olson, and here we talk about all the good things about entertainment. And today we are talking about The Queen's Gambit. I know, like 5 years after it came out. I don't care, because I just watched it for the first time, and I thought it was great, and I want to talk about it. So let's go.
Tell the readers of life how it feels to be a girl among all those men.
So The Queen's Gambit is all about one character. Her name is Beth Harmon, a gifted chess player orphaned at like 10 years old, destined to be the greatest chess player, until she isn't. Now, she is the main character, so she is very good at chess. Like, there is no lie. She has a gift. She's amazing. She quickly starts learning from, his name is Mr. Scheibel. He's the janitor at her orphanage, and that's where she gets her start. When she eventually gets adopted, she goes out and she starts competing in tournaments and starts just demolishing existing chess players. She does fantastic, as she should, especially in a male-dominated space in the 60s, girl power, freaking get in there. It's awesome. And she makes a name for herself, she starts making waves. And that's what the show kind of focuses on a lot, about her challenging the status quo with her gift. Not only that she's a woman, but she's also young, but sometimes that gets the better of her. Because in the early tournaments, she usually wipes the floor with these people. But if she doesn't fail, then she doesn't learn. So when she eventually goes on to bigger tournaments, she meets people with just as much confidence as her and know more and can beat her. Okay, she isn't the best player in the room anymore. She starts acting out of rage, out of frustration. She drinks, she does drugs. She starts to fall into a deep end. She sidesteps away from the chess stuff because she's being challenged and she hasn't really done that before. So she goes through moments of training and falls back up and then gets back again. And that's kind of what chess is like, that kind of arch of attacking the problem, but then you have to fall back. Sometimes you take a few hits, but you recover. Okay. Professional or otherwise, you have to face the opponent head on, but then you may have to pull away from something and that holds you back. And, it feels rough when someone gets the better of you, but it's your job to push on through and find a way back despite the forthcomings. And Beth eventually has to do this. And when her gift is challenged, it freaks her out. It makes her realize that she's getting way too far with way too little training. She has to learn from the other pros. She has to figure out her style. She has to know the style of her opponents in order to really train herself to be the best. The game is the story, and that I think is super interesting. Obviously, we want the main character to win, and we don't always want them to win, and we don't always want them to lose. We want to see their actual journey, and using chess as the building blocks for how the story is structured is very clever. You can't always make a game into a movie, and it's actually really interesting that they decided to make chess into a story, because chess feels like a very simple game, right? Like, it's obviously not a simple game. It takes a lot of intelligence to know how to play chess really well and to know the patterns and everything. It takes a lot of skill to be able to do that at such a massive level. But being able to convert that into a story when there isn't hugely a story within chess as a game, kind of interesting. I like that they were able to do that. And so being able to push through her trainings, it's a lot like chess. She has to keep calm, to control her emotions, to show moments of strength when she has no other option. She has to think about her next move very carefully and very clearly. She can't just go rushing into things like she does in some of her relationships with her friends, her family, or her lovers. She plays them like a game of chess. She goes in and she has a specific goal in mind, but when they push back on it, she freezes. She doesn't know what to do, and so she falls back, and then that kind of damages the relationship. And it isn't until later where the relationships actually start getting repaired. It's very much like a chess game. You have the attack, you have the defense. You have the attack, you have the defense. It just goes back and forth, and it's awesome. And when she acts just without thinking, that's when things go wrong. And that's the same thing for chess. If you move something without even thinking about it, That's how you can lose. You have to think about every move. It's a strategy, and you have to think about your choices. The writers, they knew exactly what they're doing. And I didn't research this one as much as I've done with other videos, but I would assume the writers at least know some bits of chess, and I'm sure they played it a bunch while making the show. And I think it shows. It shows that they know what story lies within chess and how to format their story based on the game, which is a clever device in order to format their story. Stories are a lot like chess in that manner. And so I like that they were able to take that aspect into the Queen's Gambit. Something about the visuals in the Queen's Gambit, I think they just fit so right. I think it was absolutely perfect for the story. And I think a lot of that comes down to the symmetry that was used in the show, both in the storytelling as well as the visuals. They just complement each other perfectly. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Chess is a very symmetrical kind of game. You have two sides of the board, it's checkerboarded, all the pieces on each side are the same. There's just a lot of symmetry to it, and you have to play to your opposite, and that's exactly, that's what symmetry is, the mirror images of each other. And, also people have that kind of symmetry. You have their good and bad sides. Some people would say, more like duality, but I think symmetry in this case is a better word. Beth is a very skilled chess player. She absolutely knows what she's doing, and she can show up anyone who's talking some shit, but she can also be the person talking shit and can fail spectacularly. She has her flaws, like alcoholism or drug use, and she has that symmetry to her character where she has her really good aspects, but she also has her really bad aspects. People are all like that, and you see this a lot in the way her character is shot with the cinematography. Such as the moments when she's in her bed looking up at the ceiling playing chess. It's usually from a very symmetrical point of view. When she's playing games against other people, it's always from the side most of the time, so you have that symmetrical type framing. You have, even when you're looking close in on people, it's often very front on to kind of have that symmetrical kind of framing again. And it's just, they're trying to use it in a similar way to how chess is played. And I think it's fantastic, And then I think we get very similar aspects with her story. When she starts getting interested in chess, she feels like it's her passion. She knows what she wants to do, and that's great. It connects with her, and it grows, and the love for it grows. But then she starts getting into drug use, and drug use is actually the same way. She gets started with drugs at a very young age. She kind of starts getting addicted to them, and the way her drug addiction goes is a very similar sort of passion to chess, where they just grow and grow and grow, and to her they're associated. She takes drugs and then does chess and crushes it, and that's how she thinks about her chess matches, and it just starts to reflect herself a little bit more. And as we go into the story, she starts getting an ego, much like her opponents. So they all feel like they're pretty good. But then she starts to also have some mental health issues. That reflects what her mom was like before she was orphaned. There's a lot of symmetry against the past, present, and future. It's all reflecting on itself. And I think it's great. And I really think it's interesting when a show knows how to use an aspect like this, not just in one part of the show, not just the story, not just the sound, not just the visuals. They do it in all parts, and I think that's really good. To have really good cinematography is reflecting what the story is telling you, and that helps with you as the audience to connect with it a little bit more. A more current show that is doing this, that I also feel like is doing a fantastic job, is Severance, which, don't worry, in a few weeks, that's when we'll actually be talking about this once the finale comes. But I think it's a very similar thing. Cinematography using symmetry to tell the duality of a character of their personality, of their journey, of their world is just interesting. And I think it's good. I like that they can influence each other beyond just the visuals. It goes to all the other aspects of the making. And I think in this show, it really helps, with that show don't tell rule that I love so much. I like when they can explain it, and I like that they don't have to really explain chess a ton. I think they kind of go through it a little bit at the very beginning, but they do it in a way that is worth it. Mr. Scheibel is teaching it to Beth, so she has to figure it out. And so we as the audience are kind of learning, like, okay, this is kind of how chess works. And then it mostly moves on to where they're like, okay, you have the basis down. We're just going to show you how good they're doing it. And so as someone who is not very good at chess, I've never played for that much, it's like, I don't know exactly all the processes and how they're like determining all the moves and everything, but I can tell that they know. They show it in an interesting way, especially like when Beth is playing through it in her head and she's like actively moving the pieces and resetting them and then moving them again. I think it's great. And I think it's an interesting way to do the visuals of the show and give us that showing, not telling. I think it's awesome. And it gives us a worthwhile and engaging story.
I already know some of it from watching.
Girls do not play chess.
Something I touched on in the beginning was Beth's natural talent for chess, and I do think that is true. She picked it up right from the get-go, and for a lot of people in any ability, this kind of thing can happen, where they cling to it right from the start and have a natural aptitude for the practice. However, that quote-unquote talent can only go so far. In Beth's case, it is when she gets beaten by Benny or Borgov that this starts to become apparent. The difference between her and her opponents is that they have skill. And that might sound kind of dumb, because talent and skill can be the same thing, right? Sort of. Technically, yes, but usually talent is a natural aptitude to something, while skill is earned. Skill is worked at. You can have skill and talent, but you can also have talent but no skill. You have to work on bettering your ability to really become a professional and to be great at it. It's what Beth has to do. She went too far on talent alone, and then she started to fail. She realized that she was struggling, and that's when she had to develop it as a skill and not just as a talent. Take photography or videography like I am into. If I go out and I take a picture or a video and it turns out great, awesome. I may have a talent for taking a good photo or a video. However, that does not mean every photo I take is worthy of being in National Geographic or published with the Associated Press. Absolutely not. I wish I took that good of photos or videos, but I have to work on that. In fact, with talent alone, likely nothing like in that space would be good enough for that kind of situation. For that, you need to know skill. In, photography, you need time and training and failure to develop your craft. You need to know composition, you need to know lightings, you need to know the settings on your camera, the timing. All of these intuitive things have to be learned in order to be great. Failure is the best teacher. Famous painters like Van Gogh or Picasso, they didn't become great just because of talent alone. It's because they knew what they were doing. They became great because they developed their craft. They were passionate about the making of their craft. Some artists don't even live to even see how good they were to the public. In Beth's case, in order to become really great, she does have to fail a lot, and that's really hard for her. To become the very best, she has to train a ton, and even still, she fails. She fails a ton, just as much. In her first rematch with Bulgov, thinking she has learned and she knows how he's going to play, she still fails. And it can be really discouraging to fail. We don't feel good about ourselves. But when we fail, we learn. Our mistakes are what make us better. Being perfect all the time or always receiving praise is not good. If you're not receiving any worthwhile critique, and let me keep that clear, it's worthwhile. Just saying something is bad without really going into why is not very productive. Okay, that's not a very good critique unless you can explain why. If it's a choice by the artist, it may not be wrong. It may be wrong to the audience, but it may not be wrong to the artist. But you have to know the rules in order to break the rules, okay? But anyways, always receiving praise, you tend to stagnate and you become content without any need to improve because you don't know how to. And I'm not saying every ability needs to become a pro level thing for everybody, okay? Not everyone needs to be a pro photographer. Not everyone needs to be a master blacksmith. Not everyone needs to be a chess grandmaster, okay? Like, you can get there if you really desire to, but in general, most people won't, but that's okay. But if you want to improve in anything, whether it's a little bit or a lot, that will come from failing and learning why you failed, learning the skills to make yourself better and correcting your mistakes. That is developing a skill, and that is what the game of chess is. I feel like it is learning as you play the game. It is learning through different people. It's learning different strategies, learning different openings. Just like in this, it's finding yourself in the game. It's finding how you play and knowing what your mistakes are and how to exploit other mistakes. Understanding the symmetry of yourself against your opponent and them against you in the same situation. Immersing yourself in the game, becoming part of the game, as the Queen's Gambit is able to do with its audience as such an amazing show. It's fantastic. So let's talk about our rating for The Queen's Gambit. If you don't know our easily entertained rating scale from least to best, it is garbage. Once is fine. Right mood. Quotable. Go to and all day, every day. And I would say The Queen's Gambit, it's like teetering on the line for go to and all day, every day for me. Personally, I might put it at a go to. I think. Yeah. It's a go to for me. I don't know. It's fantastic. And I'm not sure what it would take to push it. I'd probably have to watch it again, and then I would kind of know where I would put that on my rating scale. But right now, sitting at a go-to, I think it's fantastic. If you haven't watched it, I don't know how you made it to the end of this video, but go watch it right now. But that is it for this episode of Easily Entertained. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like and subscribe so that you can be notified of all new episodes when they come out every Tuesday. It's always a great time. And if you have any suggestions for entertainment properties you would like to hear me talk about, comment them down below and I might add them to the list and maybe you'll hear me talk about them. But until next time, bye!